Breaking Bad is one of those shows that comes around once in a generation. Filled with suspense, tragedy, and hope, this show seemed to dominate television from the time it first aired in 2008 up until now, years after it had originally ended. Throughout that time, fans have come together to appreciate just the mere greatness that was displayed on their screens. Sure, other shows of the time were recognized for their excellence and ability to hook viewers, but what makes Breaking Bad so different? Is it because of nostalgia? Are we being too nice? Probably not. I think this show is genuinely one of the greatest to ever exist, and I'll explain why. Before I go any further, this will contain spoilers, so if you haven't watched it or you plan to in the future, you should probably click off. Intricate plot lines. When you watch Breaking Bad for the first time, you have no idea how crazy and deep things will get by the end of the series. I know that can be said about any show, but Breaking Bad handled plots and story arcs so well that they merge seamlessly. Very quickly, you begin to notice characters are connected to other characters, which in turn lead into new characters that have their own set of story arcs. Everything you find out by the end of the show can be traced back to a moment where someone did something that led them here through cause and effect. The entire show is basically a big giant display of cause and effect. Take the beginning of the series for example. Walter finds out he has lung cancer, so he reunites with his former student Jesse. They then start to cook meth. They have trouble with Crazy 8 and Emilio, and soon enough they're selling to Tuco. I know that's a very quick summary of what happened and how it happened, but you have to understand that this show is S tier when it comes to pacing. It also does a good job of hinting towards future plots through the use of foreshadowing and flashbacks. Take season 2 and its many intros that alluded to this pink bear and plane crash that was gonna happen. Sure enough, it all comes together by the season finale, and your questions are finally answered. At the time, you are so oblivious to what is going to happen, but now that you know and look back, it all connects because of all the foreshadowing that was done throughout the season. Sticking with season 2, remember when Walter was forced to break into Jesse's place to get the meth because Jesse was too fucked up? That then caused him to miss his daughter's birth? Walter, now frustrated by this, refuses to give Jesse his share because he was irresponsible and off the drugs, which leads him into him and Jane blackmailing Walter to give them their money. Then, when Walter comes over to give them the money, he finds them passed out off heroin and accidentally causes Jane's death. It's actually insane how one thing leads into the other. I know, like obviously, but to see it played out and written out so well by the writers and actors is incredible. Connection between characters. Now this one sort of ties in with the previous point, but we'll be focusing much more on the characters in the story. I don't know if this was done intentionally or if Albuquerque is just a small town or something, but mostly every character seems to already know each other or will eventually at some point. I feel like half of the story was pushed because somebody knew a guy who can get the job done and the plot progresses, but that isn't a bad thing.
Let's just say I know a guy who knows a guy who knows another guy.
One of the fan favorite characters wouldn't even be here if it weren't for Saul, that of course being Mike. Now Mike has a whole backstory which is explained in Better Call Saul, but by the time we see him in Breaking Bad, he already has so much to offer when it comes to his skills and abilities. Now in actuality, the only reason why Mike exists is because Bob Odenkirk, the actor for Saul Goodman, had other acting gigs to attend to, and the writers decided to create a whole new character, Mike, to move the plot forward. Either way, the connection between Saul and Mike, although done off camera, was essential in the development to the series. Saul also happened to know a lot of other important people, having been in contact with them at some point. Jesse already knew Saul as a shady lawyer, and Hank has had a few run-ins with Saul defending his clients. Another example I can think of is the whole Jesse and meth dealers arc that happened. To sum up, Walter and Jesse recruited people to distribute and sell their meth for them. One of the dealers, named Combo, was placed on territory that did not belong to them, and so he was shot by a kid who was part of some gang. Later on in the show, Walter and Jesse start working for Gus, who we find out is the kingpin, and one controlling a pair of dealers responsible for recruiting the kid who shot Combo. Jesse then loses respect for Gus, and at some point plans on killing the dealers who got his friend killed, and in perfect cliffhanger fashion, Walter comes in and runs them over, sending them into a death sentence. Like, what the fuck? How did Vince Gilligan come up with this? So many small details that at the time we weren't aware of, but start snowballing into some big conclusion by the end. It's honestly brilliant how Vince connects these characters into the greater story. Ahead of its time. Now I don't even have to defend my point for this one. Breaking Bad in general has been one of the most remembered and looked up upon media in the last decade. Besides all the memes and Better Call Saul keeping it relevant, a lot of shows and video games still reference Breaking Bad to this day. The jokes that were made in the show, all the memes that were born from it, still hold up to this day because they're classic. It's weird because Breaking Bad can almost be considered nostalgic now. Yeah, it's weird, but we gotta keep in mind that this show ended in 2013. I wasn't around when this show was actively airing because I was too busy watching Disney Channel, Nickelodeon, and playing Black Ops 2, but I can't even imagine the hype and feeling this show had, especially after season finales. I mean, I was already on the edge of my seat watching it on Netflix. I can only imagine how it felt having to wait so long just for the next season to come out. Back to the topic at hand, Breaking Bad is truly timeless. It doesn't feel like it was made in one specific era or anything. It's just a class act show. The concepts, morals, lessons, and everything in between can still be looked at today and analyzed because it holds so much value. I often find myself rewatching it every year because it just does not get old, even after the 7th rewatch. It takes a little effort to get through the first and second season, but that's with every show. Even then, I still love the first 2 seasons because they felt so innocent compared to the rest. With all that being said, this is just my opinion. I know I talked about random plots and shit and it was unorganized as fuck, but I wanted to make a video expressing my love for this show. Nothing will ever beat the first time I ever watched it. I remember I was in 8th grade and I was just scrolling on Netflix, and I've obviously heard of Breaking Bad before many times, but I never got the references. I never understood anything about it. So I just decided to watch it and instantly I was hooked on it. So yeah, this show is definitely one of the greatest to ever exist. I don't have to argue with anyone on that. I'm pretty sure a lot of people agree with me. That's a pretty universal point. It's not very out of pocket to say that. Hi, so I forgot to add this, but Breaking Bad has won 16 Emmys, so yeah, I don't think it was very out of pocket to say that. Anyways, back to the video. Like I said, I just wanted to make this video just showing my love for this show because it has impacted me so much and I've watched it so many fucking times and I just know everything about it. Literally, I've watched so many YouTube videos about it, analyzed every episode, I know all the Easter eggs, like literally I know everything about Breaking Bad. So yeah, just these are my reasons why I think it's a very good show. Now I probably could have done a better job. There's way more things I could have added that I just completely missed on. So if I ever get better at this at one point, then I definitely will come back to this and make another video. But yeah, that'll be it for this. So thanks for listening. Peace.